Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to the class with Tailored Expressions. I am Taylor, and I'm so glad that you are here today to take the Tailored Expressions class. Hopefully you've been having a good Friday so far, enjoying all of your kind of morning and early afternoon sessions. I was able to tune in for all of the classes, and you guys were in for a treat. I'm sorry that we're a little bit late here. I had some technical difficulties. I did it the way that I always do it, and I pushed the go button and it said rejected, and nobody likes to see that. But I think we made it work. Thank you, Catherine. And I think I got the thumbs up. Was that a thumbs up or a stop?
She sees you.
Okay, Catherine says she sees me. So whenever you guys see me too, please say hello. And I'll wait until I can start seeing some comments here and get some people on the live. Okay, you're gonna tell me when she's on? Still waiting. I think, okay. Bye, thank you.
Okay, you're on.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here for the Tailored Expressions class. I am Taylor, and I'm so sorry if I'm repeating this. We had a few technical difficulties getting on, and I hit the go live button, and it told me it was rejected. So I had a mini panic attack, and Catherine is all over it. She got us all back on track, so I set up a new live stream, and we are ready to go.
Woo!
So, yes!
Scrap and create! Let's do this!
I got my cheerleaders in the background, and I will introduce you to them here in just a couple seconds. But first, I wanted to give you a really quick sneak peek behind the scenes. So I should have done this in my meet and greet, but I didn't. So I wanted to show you now. I took this picture right before I went live. Here's me in our new production studio, so you can see all the lights, camera, microphone, everything we've got set up. And this is where we do our live streams every Tuesday at Tailored Expressions when we release new products. And yes, I really am that tall, so I know that is maybe a fun fact about me, that I am over 6 feet tall, so I might look like I'm standing on a box, but I'm not. So yes, I am super excited to be here with you today, and I, as I mentioned, have a couple of people that are joining me. You will hear their voices kind of helping me moderate the comments, make sure that I answer any questions as we go. I have Susan Block here. Susan, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hopefully
Welcome.
you guys can hear Susan okay. And Susan is one of our designers here at Tailored Expressions. She works in-house and makes projects with lots of our new products. And then you already heard the director of cheer here at Tailored Expressions, and that is Whitney in the background. She is my personal assistant, and she also doubles as my sister.
Yes.
So it's super fun. We get to work together, and she is not a crafter, or was not prior to working at Tailored Expressions, but she buys all the things and dreams of crafting. So she is now officially. We are excited, again, like I said, to be here with you guys today and teach you something about stamp and stencils. So let's get into the projects. And as I am kind of transitioning here, I would love to hear where you guys are watching from. If you have a favorite beverage that you're drinking, tell me. I've got my afternoon delight here. This is non-alcoholic. It's my T-Bomb, which is kind of an energy drink that they have at the shake shops. And it also tastes like I'm on a beach. So I love that, and hopefully you have something to keep you going this afternoon too. Okay, so here is the booklet, and I'm gonna be following along with this. I like to make some notes and highlight for myself, so that's what the highlights are, so that I can make sure I am kind of calling out the important things as we go, but we'll be following this pretty closely. Hopefully you have your homework done. And if you're just watching and creating later, I say soak it all in. That's a great strategy too. So don't worry if you start to get overwhelmed. You can come back anytime. You can watch the replay and kind of pause and go at your own leisure, so you can really practice the tips that I'm going to share with you. So we are going to start with a piece of white cardstock. I it says on your supply list that you need 1 sheet of the white cardstock. This would be the 80-pound cardstock that they gave you for stamping and die cutting. Ooh, we got some Diet Coke. We've got an iced tea, just regular, not Long Island, very nice. Coffee time. Yes, beach vibe is a good vibe. Okay, so I'm gonna take this piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock and I'm gonna cut it down to 4 by 5.25. And we are going to use quite a few pieces of this sheet of paper as we go. So don't put it away too far. There's the 4-inch and there's the 5.25. So just trim that up, and this is what we're going to use to stamp our background onto for this first project, the Congratulations project. I will be using a MISTI. However, if you don't have a MISTI or some stamp alignment tool, you can take your background stamp, ink it up, and then press it down onto your stamp and use your hand to kind of give it even pressure. Hopefully you have an alignment tool of some sort because it's just going to work so much easier. So we have our Buds and Blossoms. This is the product that the class was built around. You should have gotten this in your kit, which includes a cling-mounted rubber stamp. So all of these fine details of the branches are included as the rubber stamp portion. And then we have a set of layering stencils that goes over the top to create the buds and blossoms and greenery. So we'll first be doing the stamping and then we'll be doing the stenciling for all of the projects. In addition, we gave you this die set, which is the Little Bits Buds and Blossoms, and it is the same artwork that's featured in the stamp and stencil combo, but just in die form, so you can create those fun little extra pieces with that. I know that was part of your homework to put together. Some of us like that fussy die cutting, and some of us don't love it, but hopefully you love the outcome. So the other thing that we'll be using today is the Sentiment Staples clear stamp set with the coordinating dies for that. So those are the pieces you want to have at your fingertips. As we get started with the stamp and stencil combo, I like to think of these as making your own patterned paper. And you can do it in any number of color combinations. You can use embossing powders, you can use paste, and all that fun stuff that really makes your card pop and creates just something unique every time you want to use it. So I'm going to teach you a little tip. Maybe you've seen it before. I actually learned this from Mindy Egan. Maybe she's here today. I know she was on. Is she? Hi, Mindy. So thank you for teaching me this trick. I use it all the time now. When I use these background stamps, we make all of our backgrounds larger than the size you will need to cover an A2 card front or panel. So what I like to do is actually place my cardstock down onto the stamp, centered so that I can see an even amount of space around the outside. And then I take a little bit of adhesive and I place it down onto the grid paper of my stamp alignment tool. And then I'm going to close it from the back lid, close the back of the lid and press down so that the paper sticks perfectly in the center where I put it on the stamp. So now when I ink this and stamp it, I know that it's going to stamp perfectly centered. So there are a lot of different ways you can do this. You can center it on the grid lines and place your stamp over the top, but when you want to see that you have even spacing around the outside, this is the easiest way to do that. So now, important step, before you emboss, you want to use your anti-static powder tool. These come in lots of different forms, so grab whatever you have, if it's a bag or a brush style. This is the Tailored Expressions powder tool. I love it. It's super soft foam. You can see the powder coming out of it. It's unscented powder, and I just kind of do a pounce across my cardstock, and then I do a smooth over the top. And we're going to stamp that with Versamark or some type of embossing ink that you have, something that stays wet and stamps clear. And then we're going to emboss that with silver embossing powder. Any questions so far?
Saying they love the teal Misty.
Oh yes, thank you. We did an exclusive teal Misty with Ileana from My Sweet Petunia. So you can grab that at the Tailored Expressions store. It is one of my favorites, and if you hang around TE very much, you know what my favorite color is. It's teal. You might
a lot of favorite powder tools too.
Oh, good. You might also know what my least favorite color is. And it's become a little bit of a joke at TE when I do use my least favorite color because nobody believes it's me on the video. But all right. Okay, so I'm gonna grab just a piece of scratch paper and my silver embossing powder. And we're gonna place that over the top. I'm gonna grab a corner that doesn't have any stamping on it so that I can hold it there and kind of spread my powder over the top. Just sprinkle it. Tap, tap, tap. You can even tap from the back if you wanna do that. Make sure I get the ends. Got a little bit showing over here. You can flick it from the back if you like to do that. You can take it and kind of go tap, tap, tap to get the last little bits of it off as well. So we'll put this back into the jar now, and then we're going to heat with our heat tool. Now, as you're heating, there's lots of tips and tricks for embossing. You want to make sure that you're not overheating. And overheating, when you do overheat your embossing powder, it's going to sink into your paper. So instead of raising up, it's going to sink down into your paper, and it's going to look almost kind of greasy. Especially when you do it on a darker colored cardstock, it ends up looking a little bit like a greasy grease mark. So just hit your area very slowly until you see it turn and then move on to the next area. I try not to do like a waving motion. I really stay in one area until I see that it's embossed and then move on to the next area. You can also heat from the back if you prefer. To turn it to the light and make sure that I got all the little pieces. I'm going to reheat up here. And then I feel pretty good about that. So that's what your branches should look like after you've heat embossed. Now, I don't know about you guys, maybe I'm just a messy crafter, but I always end up with a little bit of embossing powder dust on the surface of my stamp area, and I hate that. I hate that kind of gritty texture of glitter or embossing powder. And so I'm gonna bring in a special friend. Her name is Marilyn Monrobot. This is my little glitter vacuum, and we have lovingly named her Marilyn Monrobot and dressed her up. We also have a version that we like to call Vac Efron, but I'm waiting on new hair for Vac. But I'm just gonna run this across, we'll press her nose, and then that will clean up my area so that it's nice and ready to continue. So you'll see Marilyn make an appearance a couple times today. All right, we are ready to get to the stenciling portion. So I'm gonna bring in my TE glass mat, and I'm going to grab a little bit of, you can actually put the adhesive directly onto your glass mat. Of course, you want to clean it off later, but I'm just going to place that stamped panel down onto my glass mat. And then we're going to take a look at our stencils. So the first stencil layer here, you can see it says -1 at the end of it. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to go with 1, and you can see those etched alignment guides that are on this stencil line up perfectly with the stamp. Now, if you potentially turned your stamp image, you might need to turn your stencil to fit that. So just be aware, there should be kind of one long branch coming into the top side here. but I'm gonna lean over. Hopefully I won't put my head into the camera, but it's easier to line it up, at least for me, and see where I'm going if I get a little bit closer to my paper. So I did give some tips and tricks for how to call out those etched guides with a Sharpie marker, if you want to do that in the future, if you didn't get a chance to do that before the class today. Okay, so I'm using my teal tape. We're going to use this quite a bit today. This is Tailored Expressions teal tape. I already mentioned my favorite color, so that's probably no surprise. But this is a repositionable adhesive that's great when using stencils to tack those down. You can use it with your dies to die cut, but if you do that, it does have a higher tack than like other products like the Pixie tape or washi tapes. So it is meant for stencils. You can use it for your dies and other things, but I would just condition it on your skin to give it a little less tack if you are going to use it for that purpose. Okay, so first up, we are going to use Mint Julep ink, and I'm going to go all over this leafy stencil to add the greenery to the background. I'm going to grab my ink stand. You might notice that my ink stand is teal. We collaborated with Brianne Loveland, the owner and creator of the ink stand, and she helped us get this teal ink stand exclusively for TE. It was something we offered last year, and we will be having those in the store probably, I think, in the next 3 weeks. I think it's maybe up for release in the next 3 weeks. So you can always stop back and check that out. So Mint Julep is a really pretty kind of pastel green color. And I'm going on this stencil kind of blending in both directions, clockwise and counterclockwise. So I hit those leaves from all the different directions and give them a nice consistent inking. Now, because this particular color is not very dark, I am not tapping off on my glass mat before I go to the paper. I'm just going directly to the paper. Now, if you want to, I often like to add dimensions to my stenciling by using a coordinating darker color. And I do this with a Bitty blender brush. So I'm going to take this Bitty blender with spearmint ink, and I'm going to add a little bit of this darker color towards the base of some of these leaves. And that really just adds so much dimension to your projects. People are still shocked that you don't like purple. Oh, well, it's not that I don't like purple. It's just probably not a color that I gravitate towards. But I will say, ever since we released last year our macaron and dried fig colors, they're like the perfect blurple. I use those a lot. It's like a bluish purple. So it's the lavender and the jelly donut color that we have that I don't gravitate towards very often, but Susan does beautiful things with them, and I do not look at a purple card and think, oh yuck. I think beautiful. It's just not a color that jumps out to me to use often.
You use purple and you do a great job when you do. It's beautiful. Oh, I have a purple card that you'll show later.
Yes, later.
Yeah.
Susan created some great cards for you, and I have them to show you at the end with
Purple.
just more ideas using purple. Okay, so we are done with that first layer of the stencil. Now you're going to move on to the second layer, and this time we're going to be using pink champagne ink. So again, use those stencil guidelines and line up. Will you guys let me know if my head and hair are like bent down into the camera angle so people can't see? Hopefully not. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit easier to line up even without using the etched guidelines, because you can see where these blossoms kind of fall within the leaves that you've already done. So pay attention to those visual cues as you're lining this up, and don't get too hung up on exactly lining up the etched guidelines. So that's going to be pink champagne, like I mentioned, and that is a light pink color. Again, this is a pretty light color, so we're not going to blend off on our glass mat, but When I'm using a darker color, you'll see me tap off in the coordinating color area. And then instead of going back to my ink pad, I can pull that color from the glass mat and directly onto my paper. So I'm not wasting my ink by taking it onto my placemat where it's just going to dry and be wasted. Might get a little bit closer in here so everybody can get a better view of what I'm doing.
Can you talk a little bit more about lining up your stencil just with those etchings?
Yes. So you may want to, as I talked about in the meet and greet session, one way to call those out if you're having trouble seeing them is to take a Sharpie marker and trace over a few of the etched guidelines. And then you use a baby wipe or an alcohol wipe to kind of wipe off the excess where you traced over the top of the lines. And the Sharpie seeps into those etchings, and you're not wiping away that, so you can it kind of calls out those etchings and gives you a better idea of where they're at. I know some of us have aging eyes. I had LASIK surgery a couple summers ago, so I'm not quite there with the readers yet, but I'm sure it's coming for me. So all those little etchings and tips and tricks to seeing them a little bit better are always helpful. So
and also make sure their etchings are at the top.
Yes. Oh, you mean don't turn your stencil over. Make sure you have your stencil right side up.
Yep.
Yes.
If they're having trouble lining it up, make sure.
Yes, so check and make sure that you don't have your stencil this side. The front of the stencil is the one where you see the etching of the company name and the item number in the bottom corner. If you have it turned over, it's not going to fit your stamp. So that's another good idea to check if you're having trouble aligning. All right, we're going to remove that layer of the stencil and we'll move to layer 3. Again, you should be able to see these blooms kind of fall right into place with those leaves that you have already stenciled. And this layer is going to be Raspberry Sorbet, which is a pretty mauve color in our collection. And I thought it worked really nicely for this card that I envisioned as a wedding card. Right. I'm going to use a brand new blender brush. It feels so good. Whenever I'm using a new one, I want to like rub it on my face, and because it never quite feels this soft again once you've used it. This time I am going to blend off onto my color catcher area because this color is a little bit more intense. And again, none of that color is wasted. I can come right back and pick it up and continue to blend across that area. So just kind of getting used to swiping off on this mat instead of swiping onto your placemat. And the color catcher is there, or it's arranged in the order of the rainbow. 1, because it's pretty, and 2, because if you're swiping, or if you're maybe dropping out liquid watercolor or re-inkers, that kind of thing, it's helpful to know what color they are, and you can arrange them in the order of the colors that are on the mat. We talked about the mat quite a bit during our meet and greet as well. People were asking, is it magnetic? It is. It's a 9x12 size. So it's a nice size for travel. It's a great size for just putting on your desktop while you're crafting, and then when you don't want to be using it, you can just set it aside. All right, there's the Raspberry Sorbet. You can really start seeing this come together. This is the best part when you get to the end of your pattern making. All right, this last layer of the stencil are the little insides of the flowers. And it should, again, be easy to see those fall into place. Maybe follow your etched guidelines a little bit more on this one to make sure you've got them just perfect. And then our last color is going to be Mulled Wine. So here we are with that one. This is a dark burgundy color. If you haven't noticed yet, all of our ink colors at TE are named after foods and drinks. I guess wine is a drink, not a food. Or we could argue that point. Whitney.
I know.
Wine and cheese.
It is almost time. Someone else said they were having some wine and cheese.
Oh, yes, yesterday or Wednesday when we were on the meet and greet. That was someone's snack that they said they were having. My mom, wine and cheese reminds me of my mom, but she has wine and Cheez-Its instead of cheese. She gets herself a box of Cheez-Its and a glass of white Zin, and that is her evening treat. All right, so we have those filled in, and that darker mulled wine color is a great contrast to both the pink champagne and the raspberry sorbet. So when we pull this up, we see we have a beautiful pattern created. Lovely, right? I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and that's my favorite part once the class ends and everybody starts sharing their own ideas and inspiration. So it'll be fun to see what you guys come up with too. For now, I'm gonna move my glass mat out of the way. By the end of this crafty session, I just want everyone to know that it's gonna look like a tornado happened. So if we have any more tornado crafters in the house, can we all unite? Because I think that might be all of us to some extent. Unless your name is Susan.
I'll just follow you around.
I make a nice
You do, yeah, do you clean up after each card? Susan?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, uh-huh. Susan does it right.
No.
Okay, we are going to cut this down now. This is pretty important, so hopefully you guys can listen with your ears even if you're not quite done blending. And I do have the measurements in instruction number 9 in the book. You're going to cut along the long side. So place the long side up at the top of your paper trimmer. You're going to cut at 3 inches. And then we are going to move that whole piece down and we are going to cut at 4.25 inches. So I kept the 2 cut pieces together, moved it down to 4 1/4, and then we're going to cut there. This middle section then is what you're going to set aside. We're not going to use that right now. You can throw it away, heaven forbid, or you can use it on a future project.
Don't throw it away.
I know, don't. Okay, then we're gonna have these 2 pieces. You wanna kind of keep them in the order that they go in so that your pattern kind of has the flow of the intended pattern minus that center piece here. Then we're going to take one of your card bases and some temporary adhesive. So I like to use this scrapbook adhesives, and it is a repositionable adhesive runner. And I'm just going to put a little bit on the back here, and I'm going to tack that down to my card base. I want to be able to get these up again, which is why I'm using the repositionable adhesive. We're only putting this down so that we can use it as a guide for where to place our sentiment and stamp that. So make sure there's about 1/8 of an inch all the way around the sides, top, and bottom of your pieces. And then you should be left with an open space in the center. Hopefully everybody can see that okay. Then we're gonna get our alignment, or not our alignment, our stamping tool back out. And we need our little foam insert because we are gonna be using this with clear stamps since the sentiments are clear. So we're kind of gonna move back and forth between the foam insert and no foam insert. I'm gonna take this down into the bottom. And then I'm going to take the congratulations sentiment. I think I mentioned this in the meet and greet, but you are welcome to substitute if you'd rather have a happy birthday or a with sympathy. You substitute as you see fit. Then I'm just going to align that centered and pick it up with the lid of the MISTI. Then I can take these pieces off. We're actually going to emboss our sentiment directly onto our card base. And if you have any leftover residue from your embossing or your adhesive, just make sure to take that off. I'm using my MISTI bar magnets with these pickup stickers that we sell at TE. They are super easy and
Can
Yeah.
Can you go over the cutting again just real quick? I think it'll only take you a second, right?
Yes. So you have one piece that's 4 by 5 1/4. You're going to cut on the long side of that piece at 3 inches, and then you're going to push it down and cut again at 4 1/4 inches. Then you're going to set aside that middle piece and use only the top and bottom. So there are other ways that you can do that too. So if you messed that up and you just need to use the middle piece, you can move that one down and use that. That's just the way that I thought it was easiest to kind of keep the pattern flowing the way that it was designed. But there are other ways around that. So I'm going to take my powder tool and condition that card base that we'll be stamping on in Versamark. And then again, we're going to emboss with the silver embossing powder. Where can we get the card guide for the Misty? I think they're talking about our grid paper placemats.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was just trying to ask her to explain. I was just typing it in. What her question is.
I'm guessing what you mean is this grid paper in the bottom. So
Love that.
another collaboration with Ileana. So we created that with guides that I find most useful when using my Misty. And that is available at the TE store as well. They're called Misty Grid Paper Placemats, I believe. Right now they only come in the regular size, but stay tuned. Mini is coming.
And they're also talking about your pickup things that are around your magnets.
Yes, I started to go over that, and then I went over cutting instructions again. But the pickup stickers, so we have those. They're made of a heavy vinyl, and they fit around the Misty bar magnets so that you can easily pick those up. It is way stronger than washi tape and stronger than, you know, a masking tape or something that you're having to replace more often. They were on Jennifer's favorite things list, I believe, this past year. So we have lots of different designs. The one that's in my Misty, when I bring it back again, you guys can see it's called Happy Hearts. I think that one is currently out of stock, but should be in stock soon. But there are 3 other designs as well, so lots to choose from. All right, Marilyn, help me out here.
Clean up that mess.
And we're going to emboss this then, again, directly onto the card base. And since this is our card base, you want to avoid warping as much as possible, which also happens when you overheat. So just hit it with the right amount of heat, move on, and be done. We go. A beautiful embossed sentiment. Love the shine of that embossing powder. If you have a more dull finish to your embossing powder, that can mean it's still heated to the touch, so it won't actually rub off, but not heated quite enough. So you really want to get it just perfect where it shines and doesn't have any kind of matte finish on it. All right, now we're going to bring back in those 2 pieces that we set aside that we had temporary adhesive on. And we're going to take a few of our homework pieces. I have mine here on my stick and stamp mat, staying all safe for me. We need 2 strips of this pink champagne cardstock. And we're going to adhere those to the bottom of the larger piece and the top of the smaller piece. I'm going to do that with liquid glue. And I know there was a question asked on the page yesterday of all the designers about why do you use liquid glue for intricate pieces over maybe an adhesive sheet. And I agree with what a lot of the design team or the other teachers have said, that liquid adhesive gives you some wiggle room and time to move that around if you don't get it quite in exactly the right spot. And one of my favorite new-ish things with liquid glue are these precision tips. So a lot of the different glues come with a precision tip. This is the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and you actually buy the precision tips separately. and then place them on your Nuvo glue bottle. And I love those. I'm not sure if they're in stock on our website, but every time we get them and I talk about them, they sell out. Whitney, I think I took my scissors to open boxes and I never brought them back.
The precision tips are out of stock. But
Oh, they are. Okay.
sign up.
Precision tips are out of stock, but you can always sign up for restock notification too. Okay, so I am just going to trim that off of the edge once it's placed down there. So the precision tips allow you to be a lot more accurate with your glue placement, not end up with gluey, sticky, messy fingers, as much as maybe I have experienced in the past with glues. Now to give this even more added dimension, we're going to pop up these two panels onto the card base using foam adhesive. I will be using my favorite foam adhesive. We actually just got ourselves a new roll because Susan and I go through this like crazy, right?
Yeah.
We actually have this in a regular thickness and a thin thickness. So the regular thickness is 1/30, no, the thin thickness is 1/32, and the regular is 1/16. So kind of a normal size is the one I'm using here. And these are 1 inch by 3 inch strips of foam. So it's going to give me a really nice finished, polished pop-up, and I'm not going to get any sagging on my card. You can see I just cut it directly while it was on the roll. That saves your scissors from getting sticky. So little tip there. Oh, and then I thought, oh, I can. Okay. I wasn't sure if this was too thin to fit a full one on there, but it looks like it's going to work great. And then we'll put a couple of these just to use them up down on the end. And then I like to store the extra pieces, if I have any, just right back on the roll. We'll peel these off and place them on our card base. Sarah says, I have the pickup stickers, but I can't find them. I put them away somewhere when I organized. That happens to us all the time, right?
You're speaking my language.
Yes, I'm going to put these in a safe place for when I need them, and then when you need them, they are not there. Well, thankfully, they're not too expensive. So if you need an extra set, and it always happens that once you buy an extra or buy another replacement, then you find the other one. So that's how it works in my craft room, at least. Okay, so I have placed this bottom panel down with the pink strip at the top, and now I'm going to place the other one with the pink strip at the bottom to kind of give us more of a focal point on that sentiment. And there we have it. So you might notice on my original project and in the instructions, I say you can add an embellishment like die cut hearts or rhinestones. I added a couple of hearts that I die cut from silver foil cardstock to match the silver embossing. So you can do that as well if you want to add just a little something extra. Kind of depends what occasion you're using this for. It worked great if it was going to be for a wedding card. All right, you guys, how did your first project happen? Ooh, Janet, so glad you added the thin thickness. My new roll arrived today. Yes, we had lots of requests for thin, and especially Susan. Her post office seems to be a little more picky about the mail that goes out and wanted something just a little bit thinner so you can still enjoy the dimension but not have it be rejected or pay exorbitant prices for your mail to go out. All right, we're gonna move on and work on card 2 and 3. So we're gonna get our white piece of paper out again. Let's see if I can find mine in the tornado here, the aftermath. And also, here's your public service announcement. Put the cap back on your glue if you're not using it. And
Saved.
Saved. All right, so grab your piece of white cardstock again, and we are going to trim another piece here at 4 by 5.5. So a little bit different size than what we did at the beginning. I have it already trimmed at 4, so I don't actually have a cut to make there. But then we're going to do 5.5 on the other side. 4 by 5.5. And then we are going to cut an additional piece at 2 by 5.5. I promise I'll explain all of this in just a second. I just want to make sure everybody gets the right pieces cut at the right size, and then I'll explain why we're doing it this way. So part of your homework was to cut another piece at 2 by 5.5 from, we call it toffee cardstock, but from a craft colored cardstock. Obviously, we're all food names around here, so our matching cardstock that matches our inks are also named after foods. This would be Sugar Cube for me and toffee on this side. So both of these are the same size, 2 by 5.5, and then we have our 4 by 5.5 piece of paper here. You don't have to use Sugar Cube or white, it's just what we had on the supply list. You could use a scrap piece of paper as well. The reason why we need this piece of paper is it's going to make it a lot easier to do this kind of dual blended panel that we're going to do. So I wanted to give you guys the look of blending on Sugar Cube, but also blending on a craft cardstock. It gives you a different look with the same color ink, but we didn't have time in the class to explore blending a full panel on to the craft color and a full panel onto the white color. So what we're going to do to save time is cut 2 pieces and place them together so we can stamp and blend at once. So this is going to be kind of our guide or our piece that holds it all together, so we can just pick up one piece instead of having 2 separate pieces. So I'm going to take that repositionable adhesive like we used when we did the last project, and I'm going to adhere this to one side, and then I'm going to adhere the toffee or craft cardstock right up against the other side. So again, like I said, that's going to give us just one piece to move around through our stamping and embossing and blending instead of having to keep 2 pieces kind of together. You could also use a piece of repositionable tape down the back. This just happens to be a little bit sturdier than doing something like that. So there are other workarounds for that as well. And I'm not sure you would actually ever do this again in your own craft room. You might as well just cut a full piece of one of these instead of doing the 2 side by side, but that's going to help us create 2 more projects and get a little bit different look. Okay, so we're now going to take our foam pad out, and we're going to do the same thing that we did before with our rubber stamp. I like to keep my magnets in here even though I'm not using them because they hold my grid paper placemat in place. I'm going to put my congratulations stamp back so I don't lose that one. What size foam tape did I use on the last project? So that was our 1x3 foam strips. And I'm sure my cohorts here are giving you the link, but they are pre-cut at 1 inch by 3 inch. They work great for popping up full panels onto your card, and they come on a roll like this. And this was the regular thickness, but we also have thin as well as regular. Okay, so like I said, we're going to take that background stamp again. I'm going to place it here. Actually, this time, because it's already inky, unless you washed yours, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. So I'm going to place that down. I'm going to pick it up. I lined that up centered over the top of the A2 opening that's on these grid paper placemats. And then I'm going to take my piece here. I already have my adhesive still on my placemat here. And I'm going to center it So it will be right against the line from top to bottom and slightly inside, since it's kind of an odd size at 4 by 5.5. All right. Then we are going to take our powder tool once again. I did talk about the powder tool quite a bit in the meet and greet as well, if you're curious about it. But one of the things you might wonder is, why do I have washi tape on mine? And it is kind of a habit for all of us to try to twist the lid off of something. This is actually just a pull top lid, but in our own hurry to get moving and kind of just not thinking, we all tend to try to twist this lid off. But over time, what you're doing is actually twisting the refillable part of the powder tool, and then you can have an accident on your hands once that is kind of fully untwisted and you're, getting your cap off, and poof, there goes your powder tool. So that's why I put the washi tape on there in between, and this is a fun washi that we sell at TE. It's a crafty washi tape. I can totally make that. Rainbow all the things. Prepare for crafter math. So it has some fun
It knows
sayings.
us.
I know. All right, so I've got my powder tool on my cardstock, and now I need my Versamark ink. And we're going to stamp that stamp again. You'll see me using my Just Press tool. This is what I use to press on the lid of my MISTI. I know there's lots of options out there for this, but this never goes far from my hand. It says, don't stress, just press, and really helps give even pressure over the lid of your stamp alignment tool. I know before I had the Just Press tool, my method for pressing was to pull down the sleeve of my shirt and then press it across the lid, which worked great until it was summer and I didn't have sleeves on my shirt. So this works much better and should probably be attached to my hand while I'm crafting. All right, this time we are going to use gold embossing powder instead of silver. Ooh. And I am going to...
Can you see the powder from the powder tool on your paper when you use it? She said she's not really sure with hers if she can see that it's working or not.
Oh.
And she knows for sure she did remove the plastic cover.
Okay, you did remove the plastic cover. So on darker cardstocks, you should be able to see a little bit of the kind of residue of the powder. On the white cardstock, it is harder to see. So as long as you know you removed that plastic piece from the inside, that is something that you need to do the first time you receive the powder tool. Just open that and discard it. We put that in there to avoid, during shipping, anything happening where the powder would escape. So there is a little cap over the top that needs to be removed prior to the first time that you use it, and then don't put it back on. Just throw it away. But if you're also having trouble kind of knowing if the powder has come out and you haven't used your powder tool very much to know, you can always take it like I did at the beginning and kind of place it onto your hand, and you can actually see the powder like starting to puff out of it. You might just need to do that for a little bit before you use it for the first time so that it can get the powder kind of delivered through the foam applicator and out the top. Okay, might give, so everybody, those of you that are following along with class, are we keeping up okay? I am gonna...
Everyone, and there's not major questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a quick drink and apologize if y'all hear my stomach growling because it's getting close to dinner. I'm starting to think about that steakhouse date with my husband tonight. We are celebrating his birthday.
Sorry, John. We planned Crop and Create.
I know.
Priorities.
Poor John. Every year on his birthday, I have some kind of card making event, but he's such a good sport. And yes, for those of you that don't know, my husband or haven't heard me, I don't think I even talked about John in our meet and greet. But yes, my husband works full time at Tailored Expressions. He's the CEO, and he likes to say that he does all the things that I don't want to do, so that I get to do the fun stuff like ideate new products and play with pretty things. So he is an amazing supporter and deserves to be celebrated today for sure. So we're going to do that later tonight after my class. All right, let's heat this up.
Reminding you of your mini mitts.
Oh, my mini mitts. I didn't get those out because we don't have them in the store yet, but those of you that maybe attended our Stamp Joy virtual event a couple of weekends ago, you guys probably know about our mini mitts. I'll show them to you, and you can be on the lookout on the TE website because they will be available soon. These are our mini mitts, and they are the most adorable little silicone finger and thumb guards, I guess you would call them, so that you don't burn your fingers while you're embossing. And I think I did kind of burn my thumb on that one, so I wishing for my mini mitts. But you can just hold the piece of your paper with that, and then you can get right up onto those little details with your heat tool without burning your fingers. And they're just funny and cute. And in case you wondered, we sell them in a set of 2, or we will. And I like to say one of them is for crafting and one of them is for snacking. So they do a great job of picking up your snacks. I was eating puppy chow during our event, which is kind of a powdered sugar coated treat. And so they kept my fingers clean and I could still eat the wonderful puppy chow that Whitney made for us all. All right, so let's grab our glass mat again, or I'm going to grab mine. Otherwise, you can always blend on your placemat too. I have that adhesive that I still put down onto that surface.
People love them.
Oh, good. I just remembered something. So step 15 of the last card was to wash layer 3 and 4 of your stencil before moving on. So we need to do that. And we're going to use the glass mat to do it. I mentioned having a bottle of alcohol might be helpful for the class, and that's what I'm going to use to wash those 2 stencil layers. Now, like it says in the instructions, you only need to wash layer 3 and 4. We'll be using similar colors on layers 1 and 2, so it won't contaminate anything to just leave those. I'm going to show you this one here, so I'm just going to spray this with alcohol. If you have paper towel or you have a cleaning cloth or you have a baby wipe, after you spray it, you want to grab that. My cleaning cloth is here. It's our microfiber cloth that we use to clean stamps as well. Crafting because adulting can wait. And I'm just going to take and rub that ink right off. See how perfect that was? I can even clean my little color catcher area. Now I'm going to grab it this direction and also wipe the back of it because the alcohol kind of seeps underneath and then needs to be wiped on both sides. This is my method for cleaning stencils when I don't want to go to the sink, which happens to be in the other room in this building that we are in. And we said, if we ever build another building, we just moved into this building in November of last year. We built it ourselves to house our whole operation. If we ever build a new building, Whitney has requested a sink in the production craft studio. So,
gotta wash all those stencils, make them all beautiful.
In addition to resident cheerleader, Whitney is also our resident stencil washer.
love to organize and clean.
And
all
organizer,
things.
yes. Okay, so we have those stencils washed. The great thing about doing that with alcohol is it evaporates quickly and you're ready to move on. So I am going to put a little bit more adhesive down here now that I've kind of washed that with alcohol. And I need to grab pieces that keep disappearing. Girls, help me out. Did I put it under here? That whole piece, oh, here it is. Okay, the whole piece that I embossed.
You didn't lose it.
Ah, I didn't lose it because we don't have time to redo this. Okay, so we're gonna place that down again on that glass mat. And we're gonna start with layer 1, which is the greenery. Remembering that you might need to shift your stencil, make sure you have the right side up with the item number and company name in the corners. And then you might have to rotate it if you have your stamp stamped differently than I do. I'm gonna get my head right down on it. Maybe I do need readers.
I was just gonna say, we're gonna get you those rainbow readers.
Okay.
Denial.
Teal readers. I'm in denial. Oh, it's happening. Okay. So let's blend away now. I'm gonna grab my ink stand again. My Sweet Basil ink, which is a pretty olive color. Kind of an army green color. So then I'm gonna take my green blender brush and blend across the entire panel. If you want to be a little heavier handed on the toffee side, it can handle that. It's not quite as intense as it will look on the white side. You can also go off on your placemat once, or on your glass mat or your placemat if that's what you're using, before you go to the paper on the white side, so you're not getting anything too intense for the color. And then another little extra tip, so sometimes instead of using a darker ink color, you can simply use a heavier hand to add those dimensional accents. So I'm going to be using the same ink color with a Bitty blender brush this time, and a heavier hand to add those accent, kind of dimensional, dark pieces to the base of some of these leaves. And I think that's a difference that you just see. It's a step up. Do you have to do it? No, but you do notice it when you do add those extra little details that take a little bit of extra time, but really end up looking sharp.
Someone was just asking, I know you talked about it earlier, but the color catcher. You're using
Yes.
it right now.
Yeah, so I use the color catcher when I'm blending. If I want a lighter color, I brush off on my color catcher in the appropriate kind of green section down here, and then I can come right back to that area and grab more ink so that I'm not wasting the ink by brushing it onto a piece of paper that is just going to get thrown away. So that's one use for the color catcher. Another use, so at Tailored Expressions we have liquid watercolors, and it's great to be able to watercolor on a glass mat like this. And so you can drip your watercolors in rainbow order, whatever you're using. You can pick them up with your paintbrush and paint right onto your project. So that's kind of the purpose of this color catcher area. And it's just pretty because it's rainbow.
I love it.
Okay, so there you can see some of that dimensional dark pieces that I got towards the base of those leaves with my Bitty blender brush. Then we're going to grab layer number 2. We'll line that up, and this one is going to be pink champagne, just like it was on the last project. And these are the blossoms that are going to start to fall in place on that background. Just kind of twist it around until you see the V's of each blossom fall within the V of the leaves. And I have been using the same teal tape the whole time. You'll notice that I take and fold in one end. So I like to do that before, or actually at the time that I cut off a piece. So I fold the end in so that it's easy to find next time I want to use this roll. But it also works great when I'm placing it down on my glass mat. It's easy to grab a piece of it and just peel that up instead of pick with your fingernail trying to get under your adhesive.
Brilliant.
Yay! Okay, so we're going with Pink Champagne. And on the right side here, my right side is the toffee cardstock. And I'm not brushing off onto my glass mat because I am on the toffee layer. And you need to hit it a little bit heavier than you would a white cardstock. I kind of wish that I was going to be doing what everyone else is doing this weekend, hanging out, enjoying crafty classes. I'm gonna bring my AirPods to the volleyball tournament tomorrow and Sunday. My oldest daughter is playing here in town. She's 11, and they are trying, her and her team are trying to make it to nationals. So they have the qualifier this weekend, and if they get first, second, or third place, then they get to go to nationals, which is in Minneapolis. So not too far from where we're at, but they are so excited. They've got a good little team of girls. But that's where I'll be. I'll have bleacher butt for the rest of the weekend. Okay, so we got our buds here, and we're gonna take that stencil off. Look how pretty that is coming together. We get a more rustic look on the toffee cardstock than the kind of more bright on the white cardstock. Okay, so layer number 3, place that one down, and these are the other buds. So we have 2 bud layers, or bloom layers, I guess. They're kind of buds and blooms, which is why this is called buds and blooms, because they're really a little bit of both. This layer is going to be guava. Guava might be one of my most used colors. I do love bright, fun rainbow, but guava is that beautiful coral color.
It's one of my favorites.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Susan, it's one of your most used colors too, I would say.
Yep.
I can see it
Guava
already in 2 of
and-
your cards.
Yeah, guava or tropical punch.
Tropical Punch is
Yeah.
another one.
But guava and pink champagne are my favorite pinks.
So I'm using, again, a heavier hand, not brushing off that guava into the color catcher section, just going straight to the toffee cardstock. And then as I pull it over to the other side here, I can use up some of that ink from the color catcher and not get quite so intense on my blooms on the white cardstock.
Someone just asked if you have a storefront, Taylor, in Indy.
Oh, you guys.
They said they live 30 minutes from us.
Only 30 minutes?
Come play with us.
Okay, well, do we have just a second for me to show some pictures? What time do I need to be done?
5, right?
5? 3:30 I
You get 9
started.
minutes.
Oh, okay, no pictures. I know, I was about 10 minutes late, so we better just keep going. But maybe at the end I'll have time because I did load some pictures to show you guys, but I want to get through as much of this as possible. We're really through the blending part and the rest is kind of assembly. I know that's something that's fairly easy to do on your own as well, but I might be able to make it through one more project. All right, we're gonna do the toffee card. So now that you're oh, I'm not finished blending though. Am I? No, I'm not. I got so excited.
I got so excited. Sorry.
That's okay. And then I got so nervous because I was like, oh no, it's going by so fast, our time together.
Could craft all day.
I know, it's sort of sad when it comes to an end because I look forward to this for so long and then it goes by in the blink of an eye. Okay, the last color then for that last layer is Cherry Pop, and that's going to add the dimension to the center of the flowers, the buds and the blooms. And I want this color to be heavier and more intense, so I'm going straight to my cardstock. Cherry Pop is a really pretty vibrant red color. All right. Now that we're done with our blending, we can take those pieces off of our carrier sheet, I guess if you want to call it that. And then we're going to do a little bit of trimming. We're going to make put together the toffee card here. So take those off. You can leave the adhesive on the back. Eventually we'll end up putting more adhesive on the back, but look how pretty that is, the way it turned out, looking a little more muted on the toffee craft color and then brighter on the other color. Such a pretty color combination. Okay, so we're going to take that piece of toffee and we are going to cut it. We are going to cut it down to 4 1/4 by 2. So it's already 2 inches this direction. Now I want to cut it down to 4 1/4 so it will fit all the way across our card base. We're going to do a little bit of splatter on this one, and I talked about the Dr. P.H. Martins a little bit in the meet and greet, but this is what I like to use to splatter. You can also use, let's see, white acrylic paint. You can use white re-inker or smush a pigment white ink pad into your acrylic block and add a little bit of water. I have our eyedropper bottle with some water in it, and I just added, oh, let's do 2 drops. I think 2 drops of water should be enough to get a good splatter. So what I love about this particular product is that it's really vibrant on your cardstock. I just picked up that liquid here with my paintbrush. This is a number 4 paintbrush. The bigger your paintbrush head, the bigger your splatters are going to be. So if you like a fine splatter, then choose a smaller paintbrush head. So I'm just going to tap that across my finger here, and you can see those splatters start to show up across the cardstock. I know lots of people, Susan included, like to splatter in a box.
Yes.
And I would normally probably do that if I weren't on camera. I'm going to hand this to you so I don't get that messed around in all of my stuff. Okay, so there's what that looks like with the splatter, and we need to set that aside to dry. I am going to grab, actually I'm just going to use my hand here. I've got some splatters on my placemat that I don't want to get on anything else, so get those off of your placemat if you have a placemat. Okay, now we're going to take the toffee die cut circle and, oh thank you, Susan wants me to wipe my hands. Okay, we're going to take the toffee die cut circle and we are going to emboss this. So another fun thing you can do with embossing powder is create a little bit of a distressed look around the outer edge. And to do that, I'm simply going to take my Versamark ink pad and we're going to press it, dragging it kind of around the outside edge of that piece here. Okay, so we can even kind of smush it a little bit towards the interior, not really touching the middle part. We want to keep that towards the outside edge. You can see where you have that powder, and you can press it a little bit farther in if you want to get a little bit heavier edge to your piece here. Then I'm going to hold on to the center and cover this again with the gold embossing powder. So you can see I definitely got a little bit thicker edge than I did in my original sample, but it'll be fun to see a little bit different look on it than what is in the picture. And we'll use the mini mitts. I think I can hold on to the center with my little mitt without actually touching the embossing powder. Yes, I can.
You got this.
All right, here we go. Oh, let's put the lid on this before I blow it all over my desk. My fingers are not burning. I do need to turn it though, so I can get this other side here. All right, so that looks a little bit like this, kind of a distressed rim around the outer edge of your circle. And next we are going to stamp our hello sentiment. You should have some excess of that white cardstock left that we can stamp on. We don't need this guy anymore. Somebody said I'm still stenciling card 1. That's okay. All right. Here we go.
People are asking how tall you are and if your kids are going to be as tall as you.
Well, I am 6'1". And my daughter, my oldest, and my middle daughter are on the same track, I would say, to be quite tall. My daughter, who I mentioned that plays volleyball, she's 11. She is a little over 5'9" right now, which is really tall for a 5th grader. I forgot my foam pad, so I gotta find that. I found it. I had it earlier. I just forgot to put it in. It's in the Crafter Math. Yes, we should take a picture of our Crafter Math. So yes, my daughters are both very tall, and my son, I'm not sure about him. He is pretty tall, but those of you that tuned in, I talked a little bit about how our son has special needs, and he has a rare condition that one of his chromosomes is not fully complete. And probably nobody would recognize the name of it, so I won't even say it, but he has some growth issues with weight, but he did get a little bit of the height from both of his parents, so.
He's adorable.
Little Henry, he is. He's.
Auntie Whitney loves him.
Well, he's coming to your house tonight. In case you didn't know, he's coming over while we go out for dinner. So thank you for that. All right, so I have that hello stamped, and I'm just going to die cut the hello sentiment here. And we have those coordinating dies for the sentiment staples that were included in your event kit. I'm going to grab my adhesive. So what I prefer to use, I did tell you could use the teal tape, but I love using Scotch removable tape. It's something we've carried at Taylored Expressions since I first started the store. It's probably one of our longest running items because it's just so perfect for what it does. Always holds the paper in place, doesn't leave any residue, doesn't tear the paper. So that's, it's my tried and true, and I've stuck with it. Poke that little piece out, and we have a cute little hello die cut. Okay, now we're going to get to assembling this one. We have our piece here that we splattered. Just test it before you start doing anything else. Mine looks like it's dry. Maybe test one of the larger splatters on yours to make sure that it dried. That's another thing that I love about the P.H. Martins is that it dries pretty fast. And it's called Dr. P.H. Martins. I I always spell it wrong because I think about my favorite shoes of the 90s, Doc Martens, which is spelled differently. Anybody else? Did you wear Doc Martens, Whitney, or were those not popular when you were? Yeah?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes. How about you, Susan? Did you have Doc Martens?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, the brown ones.
Yes. I had the clogs and the sandals and the boots and all of it. Okay, so when this is finished, we are going to, let's see what my instructions say. Really, it doesn't matter what order we go in, but we're going to adhere the toffee circle to the die cut white circle. We put this one on your homework, some kind of a scalloped circle, and we gave you the approximate size. Now we're going to adhere this over the top. We also have this little piece here that you can adhere. We did have you kind of do these a little bit differently. So one of them has the guava cardstock on the right side. That's the one that we're going to use now with, I'm going to do liquid adhesive again so I can have a little bit of wiggle room to put that down.
Everyone is saying Doc Martens are in style now.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, no, I just...
Oh, everything is
I
coming
wore them.
back.
Yeah, I wore them and both my daughters have them now. Yes.
Is it one style in particular, or what do they have, Susan?
Well, the one just got the white.
Oh, the white
boots.
combat boots?
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other one has black combat boots.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
I'm not
maybe
cool
it's...
enough.
You're not cool enough?
They're so heavy. I don't know why
I know,
wore them
they
in high
are.
school.
All right, now we're putting our hello on. Then we are going to adhere the panel to our card base. You have another top folding A2 card base. It's going to go down here at the bottom third of the card. I'd say with about 3/4 of an inch at the bottom. And then we're going to adhere these 2 strips of guava cardstock that you pre-cut ahead of time. They should be the length of the card. Actually, now that I look at that, I wonder if I put the wrong measurement in there. If you need to trim a little bit of extra off the edge, just use your scissors to trim the guava pieces down to the 4 1/4. And then we'll take this and we'll pop it up. I have my other adhesive roll. This one is more used, not as new as the other one, so it's a little smaller, but we have our 1/2 inch square foam pieces, and these come in thin and regular thickness as well. So we'll just pop that up. All right, just like that. Okay, we have one more card to finish and not too many minutes. So, I'm not sure what to do. It kills me not to totally finish everything, but I want to make sure that I'm respectful of all the time for the other classes that are coming up. So what you want to do on this one, I think as long as I explain this first cutting part, you guys can see how it gets put together with the sentiment stamped and the vellum circle. So we're going to take this piece that we blended, and we need to cut that down to 2 by 5 1/4. So right now it's 5 1/2 by 2. So we're just going to cut a 1/4 inch off of this end. And then that's going to get adhered to the card base with equal spacing around the top, left, and bottom. I think that's about 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Then we're going to take our other piece of pink champagne, and that's going to get placed right up against that edge there. So not on top of the pattern, just right next to it. I could have used liquid adhesive, but this is just as easy and maybe even a little bit faster. Okay, so there we have your card, basic card layout for this one with the Get Well Soon. The second little piece that you die cut will go on there. Let me pull in the finished card so you guys can see that. Of course, there are pictures in the booklet as well to just stamp that sentiment, pop it up on a vellum circle, and add your tiny little buds and blooms die cut piece.
They're saying go ahead and finish. So
Oh.
they can come back and watch that later if you want to go ahead and explain a little bit more.
Okay, okay, sounds good.
Someone
Well-
said they have an hour, so I don't know if that's right, but someone said they have an hour.
Started at 3:30 my time, so I
Yes.
think I don't have another hour.
No, they're saying
Oh,
nothing
they
starts.
have. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. Okay, well, we'll keep going then. Really, we don't have far to go, and we'll stamp our Get Well Soon onto a piece of the, I'm going to use this piece that we used with the hello, so I can use up another little scrap. So we'll grab our Get Well Soon sentiment. I'm going to need some real help finding anything.
Oh, yes.
Susan just needs to like stand up
Craft.
here, and I did find it. Now
Okay.
everybody's surrounding me like, we'll help, we're here.
I don't even know how to craft, but I'm here for support.
Okay, so stamping that again with your black ink. I'm using our Oreo ink, which is a hybrid ink. It's amazing. We have a few hybrid inks. It's great for coloring with alcohol markers. It doesn't bleed. And you can also, it's waterproof, so you can watercolor with it. It's sort of a jack of all trades ink. And then we'll die cut the Get Well Soon with our coordinating die. Got my little piece of Scotch removable that I can reuse. Another thing I love about that is you can reuse it many times, and you can just tape it right over the sentiment. It's never going to peel up your paper or any of your hard work. Get our die cut machine out here again.
I was having I can't find anything this morning, so I'm rubbing
Were you?
off. I think
I know, you set
The
something
bad
down and
mojo,
you get
yeah.
like moving on to something else, and then, oh, where did I put that? And I'm sure everyone watching at home is having the same kind of thoughts now that we're nearing the end of the class. Where did that go? All right, so we have our Get Well Soon die cut. I am going to take and pop that up onto the vellum circle. That is the last piece remaining on my stick and stamp mat that I had you cut ahead of time. And then we have this one last die cut piece as well. So I'm just going to put just a tiny bit of adhesive down towards the base of this flower, and that's going to stick to the back of my Get Well Soon sentiment. So I kind of like that T sort of right in there. Then when I adhere this down, I can pop up my sentiment over the top of the vellum circle. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm not popping up the sentiment. I'm going to adhere that down onto the vellum. Put a little bit of adhesive on those blooms. And then we're going to pop up the vellum circle. So whenever I use vellum on my card panel, it's always to create a little bit of space between the pattern and the sentiment. So your eye goes to the sentiment instead of the busy pattern. So a lot of times I will use vellum circles over a full piece of pattern so that it diffuses the busyness of the pattern and allows you to see the sentiment. And in order to do that, you want to pop this circle up. Otherwise, if you put it straight down on your paper, you can still see that pattern through the vellum. You want to pop it up so that it creates some distance between the pattern and the vellum and sort of diffuses that pattern in the background. So in order to pop up vellum, we all know that it's hard to find a good vellum adhesive that doesn't show through. So I'm going to use foam tape, but I like to hide it behind the sentiment there. And just, that will make sure that we can't see through any of that adhesive, or we won't see any of that adhesive hidden behind the sentiment. Sometimes this is a little trickier to do depending on what sentiment you're using and how big of a space you have to hide your adhesive. But then we're just going to position this sort of a little bit over the top of our pink champagne strip. And then make sure your Get Well Soon is straight. And we'll just pop that down.
I love the daintiness of the flowers.
I know. I mean,
So
they take a little time to cut and put together, but they add so much fun. So these are the cards you just created, or we just created together. I want to show you some other inspiration. So get ready to take some screenshots of your screen if you want to remember these for later. I can always post them, and I will post them in the album for my class. Susan created these amazing projects using the supplies that you guys just used in the class. This is an adorable card. It's in rainbow.
And there's purple.
And there's purple in the rainbow. It's a mini slim card, and it has those little bud dies that we just talked about, and some of our rainbow rhinestones with the happy birthday sentiment. Another one using the Buds and Blossoms Little Bits. So here you can see she's got that up here for a pretty and purple Get Well Soon card. Love that one with our Gathered Greenery background stamp that's embossed in clear embossing powder on the background of that one. So then next up we have a duo of cards. I wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek of something that's going to be coming in a couple of weeks. So we like to do companion products that coordinate with things that we've already offered. And in this case, we are going to be releasing a foilet pattern for the background stamp and the small little kind of details on the inside of the blossoms. So you can see as I hold that to the light, Susan toner foiled the background with a Mink machine and
I think it's
champagne foil on this one. So
even though it's gold embossing powder, it's champagne.
Something you can kind of be looking out for is this companion product. We will also have a foilet for the sentiment set that you guys received. So those foilet panels, we call them at TE, they are toner printed, which allows you to foil them using a Mink or a laminator as a heat source. So super pretty way to do these. This was a color combination that I blended and then Susan made it into a card. I thought this one was kind of fun with the little blue interior flowers too. So, all right, now if I have just a couple more minutes, I think I wanted to share here, I'll lay all these out one more time.
All the ladies are saying, you had me at foil.
Yay! Okay, so one more thing I wanted to share. Somebody had asked about our studio and whether we had a retail space. We would love for you to come visit us. We moved into our new space in November. This is our retail studio space, and we would love to have you come visit, whether you're 30 minutes away or 3 hours away or 10 hours away. Summer is coming, and it's a fun time to do a little trip. We are right off of I-80, and so really easy to get to as you're traveling through, maybe moving to another part of the country. So come see us, and here's another couple of pictures for you guys to see the different spaces we have in our studio. This happens to be my favorite wall in the studio. It's our wall of color, has all of our inks, cardstocks, felt, everything arranged in rainbow order. So we love having visitors in the studio, or if you're nearby, plan to come. Every week we have a free make and take on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So one other shot from our studio. This is what our customers see when they walk in the door. And we truly believe this at TE, that you are changing the world one handmade card at a time. And so that is how we share joy as card makers. We send those cards out into the world, and truly make the world a better place. So keep on changing the world, one handmade card at a time. All right, I'm going to come back to the screen here so you guys can say farewell and I can say farewell. I hope you learned something new. I hope you enjoyed the products and had a little bit of fun stamping with me on this Friday afternoon. Thank you again to Catherine and the whole team at SCT. You guys have been super amazing, and I can't wait to tune in to the other classes and kind of wrap up sessions happening throughout the rest of the weekend. So thanks so much for having me. I hope you guys have a wonderful, fun weekend and hope to see you next time. Bye.